Got it. Good. So we start with the Sanskrit words. Saha,
Saha,
Eshaha,
Esa,
Doshaha,
Dosha,
Purushadvit,
Pushadvit,
Aste,
Aste,
Vihan,
Vihan,
Pravishta,
Parisha,
Yam,
Yam,
Apatyamatya,
Apatyamatya,
Pushnasi,
Kushnasi,
Krishnat,
Krishna,
Vimukaha,
Vimukaha,
Yatashri,
Gatashri,
Raja,
Chaja,
Ashu,
Ashu,
Ashaivam,
Ashaivam, Kula, Kula,
Koshalaya.
Koshaya.
And now we will go with the verse. Saesha dosha purushad vidhaste.
Saesha dosha purushad vidaste.
Griham pravishtoyam apatyamatya.
Griham pravishtoyam apatyamatya.
Pushnasi Krishna vimukko gata shris.
Pushnasi Krishna vimukko gata shris.
Yajasvai savam kulako shalaya.
Vajasvasam kuloko shalaya.
Saesha dosha purushat vidaste.
Saesha dosha purusha vidaste.
Griham pravishtoyam apatyamatya.
Griham pravishoyam apatyamatya.
Pushnasi Krishna vimukko gata shris.
Pushnasi Krishna vimukko gata shris.
Rajasvai shaivam kulako shalaya.
Vajasvashaivam kuluka shalaya. Saesha dosha purusha vidaste. Saesha dosha purusha vidaste. Grihan pravishto yamapatyamatya. Grihan pravishto yamapatyamatya. Pushnasi Krishna vimukho gata shris. Pushnasi Krishna vimukho gata shris. Jajashvashaivam kulako shalaya. Jajashvashaivam kulako shalaya.
Saesha dosha purusha vidaste.
Saesha dosha purusha vidaste.
Pravishto yamapatyamatya.
Griham pravishto yamapatyamatya.
Pushnasi Krishna vimukho gata shris.
Pushnasi Krishna vimukho gata shris.
Vajasvai shaivam kulakau shalaya.
Vajasvashaivam kulaka shalaya.
Saesha dosha purusha vidaste.
Saesha dosha purusha vidaste.
Iyan pavisto yamapatyamatya.
Griham pravishto yamapatyamatya.
Pushnasi Krishna vimukto gata shris.
Pushnasi Krishna vimukho gata shris.
Yajasvasaivam kuloko shalaya.
Vajasvashaivam kulako shalaya.
Saesha dasha purusattva aste.
Saesha dosha purusha vidaste.
Griham pravisto yamapatyamatya.
Griham pravishto yamapatyamatya.
Pushnasi Krishna vimukho gata shris.
Pushnasa Krishna vimukho gata shris.
Ashaivam kulokau shalaya.
Vajasvashaivam kulako shalaya.
Does anyone online wants to recite the mantras, the verse? Okay, we will go on with the word translation. Sa, hi, esha, this, dosha, offense personified, Purushadvit, envious of Lord Krishna,
envious of Lord Krishna,
aste, exists, grahan, household, pravishtaha, entered, yam, whom, apatyamatya, thinking to be your son, ushnasi, maintaining, krishnat, from Krishna, vimukaha, in opposition, gatashri, devoid of everything auspicious, Yaja, give up, ashu, as soon as possible, aish, ashaivam, inauspicious, family, kaushalaya, for the sake of. Translation: you are maintaining offense personified, Duryodhana as your infallible son, but he is envious of Lord Krishna. And because you are thus maintaining a non-devotee of Krishna, you are devoid of all auspicious qualities. Relieve yourself of this ill fortune as soon as possible and do good to the whole family. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. A good son is called apatya, one who does not allow his father to fall down. The son can protect the father's soul when the father is dead by offering sacrifices to please the Supreme Lord Vishnu. This system is still prevalent in India. After the death of his father, a son goes to offer sacrifices at the lotus feet of Vishnu at Gaya and thus delivers the father's soul if the father is fallen. But if the son is already an enemy of Vishnu, how in such an inimical mood can he offer sacrifice unto Lord Vishnu's lotus feet? Lord Krishna is directly the personality of Godhead Vishnu, and Duryodhana was inimical to him. He would therefore be unable to protect his father Dhritarashtra after his death. He himself was to fall down because of his faithlessness towards Vishnu. How then could he protect his father? Vidura advised Dhritarashtra to get rid of such an unworthy son as Duryodhana as soon as possible, if he was at all anxious to see to the good of his family. According to the moral instructions of Canakya Pandit, what is the use of a son who is neither a learned man nor a devotee of the Lord? If a son is not a devotee of the Supreme Lord, he is just like blind eyes, a source of trouble. A physician may sometimes advise the extrication of such useless eyes from their sockets so that one can be relieved of the constant trouble. Duryodhana was exactly like blind, troubling eyes. He would be a source of great trouble to the family of Dhritarashtra, as foreseen by Vidura. Vidura therefore rightly advised his elder brother to get rid of this source of trouble. Dhritarashtra was wrongly maintaining such personified offense under the mistaken impression that Duryodhana was a good son able to liberate his father. Om Ainana Timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manovistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Svayam Rupa Kada Mahyam Dadati Svapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Uttaparakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishagan Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurange Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpattarubhyascha Kripa Sindhupa Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya, Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale, Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamini Iti Namine, Namaste Sarasvate Deve Gauravani Pracharine, Nirvishesha Shunyavari Paskyate Adesha Tarine. Sa Esha Dosha Purushadvitaste Grahan Pravishtoyam Apatyamatya Pushnasi Krishna Vimuko Gata Shris Tyajasvaishavam Kulaku Shalaya. You are maintaining offense personified Duryodhana as your infallible son, but he is envious of Lord Krishna. And because you are thus maintaining a non-devotee of Krishna, you are devoid of all auspicious qualities. Relieve yourself of this ill fortune as soon as possible and do good to the whole family. So here we are reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam. Saintly Vidura is approaching Dhritarashtra, the king, and he's kind of giving him all the good reasons he should change. And here we get to know like the reason that Dhritarashtra has a son, and having a son in the Vedic culture is considered favorable, but only on the condition that the son can liberate the father, that the son can actually help the father to reach the final destination. And here Vidura is describing that his son, Duryodhana, is not that kind of the son that will help him, actually. So there is very little reason to promoting such a son. And what's kind of interesting for me in this part, because I kind of glanced over more of those verses as I did not know like which one you will be reading. Prabhupada for the second time mentions here, at least for the second time, mentions here the moral instructions of Canakya Pandit. And so I was thinking we could read something more about Canakya Pandit, because Prabhupada is quoting him quite a lot all over his writings. So it might be nice to get more, because even though Canakya Pandit himself was not like a pure devotee of the Lord, Prabhupada is taking the principles, the moral principles from him in order to give us like a safety net for our self-realization, like sattvic principles, and also through those principles and insights we can get some understanding what is the purpose of family, what is the purpose of society, how we should behave in certain situations, and so on. So in that sense, it's connected to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, because it's these are like principles that can help us on our way, and Prabhupada is quoting them quite a lot. My understanding is that in childhood, or in like a young man, in his pastime, Prabhupada read those shlokas from Chanakya Pandit, and he remembered basically all of those shlokas. My understanding is that Prabhupada was that he Prabhupada, like, once he read those shlokas here in this pastime, he kind of remembered the whole thing. So he is giving up as Chanakya Pandit. So I have a book on that that contains those shlokas. It's not a good book, but it contains the shlokas, so I will focus on the shlokas. Because one of those principles is that we should cultivate being able to take gold even from the dirty place, as aspiring devotees of Prabhupada. So we will take the shlokas from the book, and those that Prabhupada cites the most. Okay, and like short history, who Chanakya Pandit is. It was a chief advisor to Maharaj Chandragupta, and he lived about 3,000 years ago. And what's quite interesting, at least for me, or inspiring, is that he lived in a small hut, and took no salary for his service. Basically, he was like the main, like a prime minister of the last king, Chandragupta. So his position was very high. At the same time, he wasn't taking any money for his service, and lived a very simple, or we could say like a poor life. And that like supported him, and like also he was giving the example, like a simple life, so we can keep our mind clean and clear. Yes, so for example, like I'm engaged in the investment business, and now I'm in the process of like starting an investment fund, basically collecting capital from people, and maintaining and growing that capital on the financial markets. And basically like 99% of those investment funds are structured in a way that they take a fee from the money one has that. So it's usually like 1 or 2% per year is the fee, and the manager, he doesn't need to do anything really, and he just collects the fee. And like by this structure, the goal of the manager of the fund is to grow the money he kind of maintains. It's not about like outperforming the market or doing something like different or doing something smart. It's just trying to like keep as much money in the fund as possible, because that's the basis for the calculation of the fees. And this drives the motivation of the manager to like trying to promote the fund and to invest in a way that's fancy right now. But that does not mean that the capital is invested well. It's just fancy, so people will put the money in. And the other motivation is to like be the same as all the other funds. Because if my performance is the same as the other funds, people will just keep the money there. Because if the investments fall, like so all those funds will like fall in performance, and the market is to blame. But if I try to do something different, then people might leave me because the fund is doing something different and might have a different performance. So I'm kind of reminded of Chanakya Pandit here, because he says like, I will be managing your money, but I will take no fee for it. And that creates much more space to actually focus on the proper thing. So there are some funds that actually did that in the past, and that's my motivation to like do a fund that will not take the like a flat fee from the capital, because that's like I think it's a healthy principle basically. So I might not get rewarded for some time by maintaining the capital, but it will be the proper thing to do, because I will get fees only if I perform well anyhow. So that was my inspiration. And now I will read some of the verses Chanakya Pandit said. And these are like usually those that Prabhupada uses throughout his teachings. So, for example, Chanakya Pandit says, even one well-qualified sun is better than hundreds who are worthless. A single moon destroys the darkness of night, whereas thousands of stars do not. So this is like, there is a lot of verses regarding a sun, like a proper sun. So and we get to hear like a single moon destroys the darkness of night, whereas thousands of stars do not. It's like so prominent in Prabhupada's teachings that the focus is on quality and not quantity. So it does not really matter like if I go outside on Harinam Sankirtan and there is just me, or there is like 1,000 people, because it's like it's basically going to according to Krishna's plan, and we get to focus on our progress, our quality of progress, and like being kind of structured and strict with ourselves, and then the quantity might come if we stay kind of clean and inspired. There is more. So Chanakya Pandit also said, he is truly learned who sees other men's wives as mother, others' possessions as rubble, and all living entities to be like himself. That's a well-known verse. Like I will also read Sanskrit. Matrivat paradareshu parada dravyeshu lostavat atmavat sarva bhuteshu yak pashyanti sa panditaha. So a man should see other women as mother. Like, what's the principle behind that? Does it mean that I should like start calling him all the women mother? Maybe. At the same time, like, the principle is not to exploit them, not to exploit like all the weaker members of the society, because usually if I see someone as my mother, I will likely not try to exploit her, even though some men can even exploit their own mother. So that's the principle. Okay, one more. Make a complete end of fire, enemies, and disease. Otherwise, they will go on increasing. So then there is a small quote from Prabhupada. Bigger or smaller, it is always dangerous. Canakya Pandita has given this example. Fire, death, and disease. Never think of them as big or small. They are always dangerous. If you take a loan from somewhere, interest is compounded, and one day it will become so big, it will be unmanageable by you. Similarly, fire may be at first at a spark, but gradually it will so increase, oh, blazing fire. Disease also. Now there is a little pain, but if it increases, it becomes more dangerous. Therefore, he has said, never neglect these things, fire, they are always dangerous. So some practical advice also connected to finance. So never take, make end of the debt you take. Like, there is a long discussion, this is like for decades now, how big is the debt of the United States, right? And it's increasing all the time, always. There is like a clock online, you can see the debt is always increasing, and there is like a long discussion, like when it will stop becoming like, when will the United States or all the other countries become bankrupt finally? So I don't know, I don't care, but here for our purpose, for like the safety net, it might be useful to think about also the financial situation, because that creates our environment, so we don't get ourselves distressed unnecessarily, because there will be always a lot of distress. So we don't need to like increase the distress when we don't need it. Okay, there is like a few more. Husbands and wives quarrel frequently, but those quarrels are quickly forgotten. They should be taken lightly, like fighting between goats. The Shraddha ceremony performed by sages living in the forest, or the rumbling of clouds at sunrise. So there is like the fight between a wife and husband. So it should be taken like fighting between goats. So probably when I'm fighting with my wife, it kind of, with the hindsight, it feels like that. Yeah. Okay, more. Time is so valuable that you cannot get back a moment of it, even if you pay millions of gold coins. What is lost for good. If you spoil such valuable time without profit, just imagine how great a loser you are. Of course, like with the transcendental perspective, we want to spend as much time as possible that we have in self-realization, because we have this human form of life that is very precious. I have no idea how long I have been waiting like for this form. Where did I come from? Maybe from a pig. Yes. Anyhow, the time in this form is limited, and like often the the more time we spend in the form, like the faster the time flies. So it's becoming, the time feels to fly faster and faster. So we get to utilize what we have. Okay, and still I have a few. A well-dressed fool looks good from a distance as long as he does not speak. So that's like also well known here. There is a Greek saying which says basically the same. Si takový says philosophus mansi says. So you can be considered, well, if you do, as long as you do not speak, you can be considered wise. So some practical stuff. If you want to make spiritual advancement, you should think that death will come in the next moment. But if you want to be materially happy, you should think you will never die. So also practical. If you want to forget Krishna, if you want to like try to squeeze the juice from the eating, sleeping, mating, defending, you should think that you will never die. It's like yesterday and the day before, I was taking care of like two small children, and it was a very new experience to me because before that I was never taking care of children. So it was fun. We visited the zoo. So we were there, and on the way back, I played them some stories for children with Krishna. Yes, Smile, Kathleen, Haribo. So at least the older girl, she was listening to it, and at some point she asked, like, are all those people dead now? Because the story started by describing that something that happened like 120 years ago. So her question was like, are these all people dead now? So like it's quite interesting because children are smart in the way that they like see things, and then they like sometimes like inquire into the world of the grown people. That's like topic we don't usually discuss in like the mundane grown people lives, like the problem of death. But she was there and she was putting out questions regarding death. Well, usually it goes like that. One understands that that's not a topic to be discussed in such in the family of or otherwise, and the forgetfulness of the death will be there. At the same time, like if we want to make progress, that we can think that the death will come in the next moment. So that will make the time more precious. Next one. How wonderful is the character of great personalities. They do not care much for wealth, but accept it as a burden of responsibility. I just noted it because it was about money. Next one. Don't live for even one day in a place that doesn't have these five. A wealthy person, a learned brahmana, a king, a river, and a doctor. So for those who want to settle somewhere in a peaceful situation, Canakya Pandit says that the place should have someone rich, someone who can teach, maybe give some guidance, a Brahmana. It should have a king. That might mean there is some rule of law, like, and it should have a clean water, plenty of water, and a doctor. So there are also like these practicalities. And the last one, it's like also very well known from Prabhupada's teaching. Adomata Guru Patni Brahmani Raja Patnika Denur Datri Tata Prithvi Saptaita Matara Smritaha. These 7 are known as mothers: the natural mother, the wife of the teacher of spiritual master, the wife of the Brahmana, the wife of the king, the cow, the nurse, and the earth. So that was we paid a quick visit to Chanakya Pandit and his moral instructions, moral principles, like a safety net for our spiritual progress, so we can keep on making distinctions. And I would like to also mention, like, as I spent the last 2 days with taking care of those children, it was nice because I was getting stretched, and like the spiritual life is we should keep on getting stretched. So it's not that like difficult to get stretched probably in this world. Like, let's say if I want to start a business and I've never started a business before, right? It will be a stretch to start a business because there are so many things I need to learn, I need to manage. Maybe before I did not manage any people, now I get to manage people. There are money. The whole thing is at a risk. So like we can get stretched in so many ways. At the same time, like we get to process the feedback and the experience we create, because I could like try to start the business and get totally absorbed in the business. Then maybe I get some money, then I will start more businesses, and I will be always like thinking about how to make money, more money in the business, and there will be, I will be getting stretched, but there will be no self-realization. It's like sometimes like I don't know, if it's like the philosophy of the New Age, like the idea that we should step out of our comfort zone, that it will help us to grow. And that's usually where the philosophy ends. Like, why should I step out of my comfort zone to grow, really? Because if I'm smart, I will know that at the end I will die and I will lose everything. I will lose like all that I've earned, or the friends, or the family. I will forget definitely all that I did, right? And like, why should I step out of my comfort zone? So then comes the philosophy of Krishna consciousness. I get to step out of the comfort zone in order to be closer to Krishna, to clear some dust that I did not see before, because the dust was there and I was just happy at home, right? That's like my favorite stuff. I'm happy at home, like kind of having the morning program a little bit, chanting the 16 rounds, staying at home at the computer, you know, there is like nothing really that can put me in some danger, at least most of the time. Yeah, but if I can like step towards like creating like a stretch, be it distributing Prabhupada's books, going on Harinam Sankirtan, like a transcendental stretch, or even those like other stretches, it does not really matter. I get to look at myself, and I usually have like plenty of opportunities to clean the dust. Like, for example, I was taking care of those 2 children, and we were coming back from a trip, and the small boy, like almost 3-year-old, I think he was getting tired, and I wanted to like go home, so he was like staying behind, and I was like waiting for him and like walking, because I know that if I walk, that he will follow simply without really forcing him. So yeah, and I basically like just wanted to like finish the trip, and then he probably felt like that he needs to like express himself, so he started to throw stones on my car. So he actually threw like 2 stones on the car, like really with force. So I became angry and I pushed him, so he fell. But I've communicated myself, like I feel this and this, and I don't want that you throw stones on my car. So I can see like I acted like a fool, right? Because like I did not need to like really push a small boy. Of course, he then started to cry, and I did not really want to do that, but I did that. Okay, I can take a look at my relationship with the car, kind of how my dependency on the car being nice is made. Yeah, how by being dependent on the car is I'm losing my mind and victimizing children even. So that's not the, well, in a sense, one could say, well, that's not something you should be proud of, but in a sense, I'm proud of it, because I got the stretch, right? Like a small boy was throwing stones on my car and there were like scratches on the car. So I got the chance to like see how emotionally dependent I am, and by the virtue that I have the fancy car, I could also like see it, and I can clean the wheat. Maybe it's there. So these were like 2 days full of self-realization. It's like sometimes I felt like that I'm engaged in addressing the deities, because like here in Czech it's winter, and it's like quite heavy winter. So when we go outside, it's all those things to put on the children, like clothes, gloves, like the scarf, right? So and like I'm doing it like all the time. So either one will be dressing the deities here, or one will be dressing his children. The activity is the same. One can choose. Yes. So it was fun, and the point is like when I grow, when I put myself out of my comfort zone, I get to see like the blind spots, and also I get to like maybe see myself and see what's really happening, because for a long time I was thinking about like children, being a father, having children, and like it's like for a long time in my mind. So it was nice to compare what's like my fantasy about having children with like the real experience. Because the mind can create so many different things, which can be quite far from the real experience. And of course, in front of my wife, I was saying it's quite easy to take care of 2 children, that I would take 3 or 4, because she made this for me, this stretch, because she was thinking that I will be done after 2 days, that I will not want to have children anymore. We shall see, but right now, I've expressed that it was easy. It was not easy. I was stretched. So let's come back to the verse. I dropped the whole book on the floor, so I need to find the verse. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama. So the third canto is quite a thick book. Okay, and I'm in the section a bit full of pictures, so I struggle to find it, but okay. So I will read it. Saesha dosha purushat vidaste graham pravishtoyam apatyamatya ushnasi Krishna vimukto gata shris tyajasva shaivam kulakoushalaya. Translation: You are maintaining offense personified Duryodhana as your infallible son, but he is envious of Lord Krishna. And because you are thus maintaining a non-devotee of Krishna, you are devoid of all auspicious qualities. Relieve yourself of this ill fortune as soon as possible and do good to the whole family. Hare Krishna, thank you for listening. You were getting stretched by spending time listening to me. I'm getting it, but you can utilize it. Okay, so now if you have any comments, questions, appreciations, of course, now is the time.
I'm reminded of, it's a book on parenting by Faber and Maslish, and the first sentence of the book is, I was a wonderful parent until I had children. So,
Hare Krishna.
Yeah. Hare Krishna. Yeah, and then I'm reading a kind of like a memoir biography of Prabhupada. It's volume 3 of Chasing Rhinos with the Swami. Mother Malini gifted it to me on my birthday recently. And so I was just reading, just last night, I was reading something related to what you said there. So the book's written by Shyamasundar Prabhu, who he was had a lot of association with Prabhupada. So he got attracted to get into like the precious gem, diamonds, rubies, precious gem business, to do it for Krishna. And he had some opportunities. So he saw Prabhupada, and Prabhupada told him, yes, pursue these opportunities. And it's quite a humorous yet deep engraved pastime between him and Prabhupada. And Prabhupada said, oh yes, pursue these opportunities through the precious stones, precious gems. All right, so then that was like that night or the next night. So he's in his room with another servant of Prabhupada, Shrutakirti. And Shrutakirti tells him that Prabhupada told Shrutakirti, Shyamasundar still has some fantasies about the material world. Okay, so let him do this diamond business, and then maybe he won't have the fantasies anymore. So again, that came to me hearing your your stories about child care, child sitting, and I appreciated your sharing about investments, and I appreciate that. Like, okay, so it's like investment, that's like it's a Vaishya thing, and like we can see from how you share that in every field of endeavor, practically, including even investments, there's like Rajasic and Tamasic way to do it, and there's a Sattvic way to approach it. And so you're inspired by Canakya Pandita, to endeavor to create some investment structures in a sattvic way. Thanks for your class.
Hare Krishna, thank you. Yes, I have a lot of fantasies about the material world, so I need to like experience everything, right?
Yeah.
So, so I get to be done. I get to be done. So children, the cars, the investments, the money. Yeah, like it goes like, okay, like I have, let's say, 100,000 bucks on my bank account. Okay, that's nice. But how would it feel to have like $1 million on my bank account? Oh, would that be different or not? Huh? That's a question. Or 10 million. And the benefit is you can increase it without any limit. Yes, so we get to also like employ our intelligence and to like, yes, sometimes like the taste is the same, even though either the quantity or the context is different.
Yeah, I was precisely just coaching a client pretty recently, and he's doing like his goals, and he's young, he's like in his 20s, and he's already quite successful. And he was he was like setting like goals, but he said like he could set his goals through investments, and he has what would be considered a high-paying job, but he wants his money to work for him, not just that he works for his money. That whole fantasy, you know. So but he was setting goals, and he set a goal at a certain time frame at $30 million. But then he looked at me and said, okay, well, why not 50 million and then be satisfied? Well, you could do 100 million, you could do 500 million. And then he could see he could just get distracted and waste his whole life that way, and never be satisfied in Krishna consciousness. Doesn't mean he won't set goals, but he could see just like the greed means like it doesn't matter what you get, you're not going to be satisfied, you're not going to be happy. Hare Krishna.
Yeah, nice. Now, like you helped him to see like the principles of being you have, right? And yes, yeah, and like sometimes like a coach, like from the other school, he would say like, why not 100 million? And now we work for the 100 million, and that would be it, right? Okay, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you for your candid vulnerability in your class. The children really was touched by that. Yes. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Okay. I wasn't thinking that I was like so much vulnerable. It went fine.
Yeah, and I appreciate like we don't speak so often about Canakya Pandita and his verses, and yeah, he's not necessarily a transcendentalist or Vaishnava, but he established rule of morality really, and by his conduct he really showed the example of a perfect brahmana. Yeah, I appreciate that you highlighted his personality's teaching. Exactly.
Nice. Yeah, like because like if we want to deal like or to like that like intelligent people will become interested in self-realization, it's good to act like with a with high sattvic principles. And yeah, so that's like the basis basically for spreading also Krishna consciousness, because like maybe yeah, like we give basically both, right? We are trying to be instrumental to the Vaishnav line of Prabhupada, and as part of that, we get to cultivate the Brahminical principles. And like my experience, like reading the shlokas from Chanakya Pandit, that like he wasn't like a strict Vaishnav. At the same time, he talks about Vishnu, talks about the absolute truth, talks about like the transcendence. So there is a lot of transcendental points as well. Are there any more questions, comments?
Sorry, I had unexpected visit.
Okay.
Yeah, like maybe I will expand a little bit. Like as I've like as I got like angry and frustrated about the car being scratched, I think it's such a fine thing, because like something in me really wants like that the car looks perfect, that it's like perfect. But the other part of me, it's like, I don't really care if the car is scratched, as long the car drives. And like, there are so many scratches on the car anyway. And like more important for me is the car is safe and it drives for like 7 years more. And then I don't really care. But something in me is like, feels under risk. If the car is like, if the property is damaged, and like that happened yesterday I think in the afternoon, and in the evening my mom called me that on Friday she's undergoing like, I think major surgery at hospital. So I was sad, and I was saying, "Oh, Yogesvara Das, you are such a fool. You are even thinking about the scratches on your car, and there are like more important things in life, like the mom. Like it's like a planned surgery. Anyway, anything can happen in a surgery." So it's like Prabhupada describes in the books, like there is like a special moment in our lives, usually in our, like if I live a materialistic life, or like even for me, there is like a special moment when someone in the family dies, and something, it's like everything stops and everyone is like in a special mood, like, I don't know, feeling sad, and like seeing is confronted with death, and like saying goodbye to the deceased person. And like now like the life becomes like the most important thing. And at that moment I can see that there is like this death that can end everything. And after a while we return to our life, and I can go back and forget about death, and like engage on all those crazy things I did before. So I got this experience, which was nice, like to compare those two events during one day. So yes, so I wanted just to add this experience.
Thank you so much for sharing. My name is Nico. Nice to meet you. I really appreciated the whole class. Yeah, like highlighting your personal stories and really tying it back to this lineage and these teachings is really beautiful and authentic. And yeah, highlighting death, I really, for some reason, it helps me and it inspires me. It gives me a good sense of a sense of urgency and like intentionality with the way that I live my life. Whenever I'm reminded, like, oh yeah, like I am gonna die. And you're saying that like a materialist, they act as if they're gonna live forever. Like if you want to live a material life, but if you want to live a spiritual life, to know that this next moment you could die. So thank you so much. I really appreciate that, Hare Krishna.
Thanks. Like you feel supported in the thought, like if you think about the death, it like helps you to see the sense of the, let's say, the process of self-realization, the spiritual practice, right? Because that's like the only thing we get to keep with ourselves, like how much we uncover the diamond, how much we connect with a pure devotee of Krishna, with Krishna himself. That is something that will not be destroyed by time and by death. So yeah, I'm glad that this point helped. Hare Krishna. Bhaktaniko, right?
Yes.
Srila Prabhupada talks about smashana vairagya. Vairagya means renunciation. And so there's different types of renunciation. The ultimate complete renunciation is yukta vairagya. That's renouncing the enjoying spirit and using everything for Krishna. So smashana is like the word smash. Smashana means crematory, cemetery. So smashana vairagya is like someone goes to a funeral. And there's your friend or family member, you see the dead body and they get burned to ashes or they get buried. And then people are facing, well, that's going to happen to me. It's going to happen to my body. Let me get sober. Let me get serious about life. And then they go home and they give up the frivolous, superfluous things because they had the sobering experience. That's going to happen to me too. And then after a day, 2 days, maximum a week or two, then they go, then they forget about it and they go back to let's eat, drink, and be merry. Let's have party life like that. So that's smashing a vairagya. Like the thing is it going to be enduring? Then there's also marketa, like we can imagine the English word monkey comes from the Sanskrit marketa. Marketa means monkey vairagya. Prabhupada sometimes talks about, because there are some, they're in the name of renunciation, they'll go to the forest and live naked in the forest. And so it says the monkeys are also naked in the forest, jumping from one tree to another, and in each tree they have different sexual partners. So there's also marketa vairagya, like it can look. It can look, oh, going to the forest, but actually all sorts of sense gratification there. And palgu, like the English word false comes from Sanskrit palgu. That means incomplete renunciation, where there's something noble about it that like we give the example, like you can say like, I renounce this car, I renounce this money. Like I renounce this relationship because I don't want to indulge in material enjoyment. Okay, but it lacks realization that it's not really mine to renounce in the first part. It's not my money. It's not. Prabhupada gives the example. I could go into the bank and walk out of the bank and declare, I renounce the millions of dollars in this bank. Someone can come on. Well, David Wolf, it's not yours to renounce. You're spoiling, you're raining on my parade here. Okay, so right. So that to realize it's not actually, everything belongs to Krishna. So this house, this car, this money, this relationship, this mind, this body. So real renunciation is renouncing the enjoying spirit and cultivating realization how to use everything in a way that's pleasing to Krishna and his pure devotee. So smashana vairagya, cemetery renunciation. Thank you.
Hare Krishna, thank you for expanding on the point I mentioned. And yeah, it's like I may on the cemetery experience, I can get like some movement of the mind, movement of the heart, right? And then like if I like want to like, it's like difficult, right? Because I'm like engulfed in the environment, in the old habits. I don't really have a goal and don't have a process, because I see that someone died. Like, okay, I will die too. So what is then like sensible for me to do? And that's like the whole topic of Bhagavatam, Srimad Bhagavatam, like what to do when one is faced with death. So we are fortunate that we have the process. I don't need to like be that I'm like dying in the next second and running all over the house, right? I can, okay, I'm dying, like fine, but let me chant my rounds, then get like prasadam, and like the structure is there, and I can like get to like process the life in a sattvic and transcendental way. So thanks for that. Yes, Mother Malini.
I like the point you made, like about your car was scratched, and then you realize that there was a bigger misery, the misery that your mother was going through. And I appreciate that, because sometimes, like, you know, like Dear Govinda was describing, like we go to a funeral and then we are sobered out, and then we forget about the frivolous ways of enjoyment, like, you know, eat, drink, and be merry. But there is another side also, which is the same coin, but different side of that, is like I go to a funeral, or I realize death, and then I forget about my misery. But then somehow, like, I forget about the death, and I go back to my miseries and self-absorption. So that's also there. It's the same thing, you know. Prabhupada often is enjoying happiness and distress. So because we enjoy distress, we just wallow there, and something like facing death or facing someone else's death, we let go of that enjoyment too, and we you know, in a sense, create more happiness, but at one point or another we forget about it and we go back to our misery.
Nice, thanks for that. That's like an interesting point. So if I'm understanding it, okay, let's say someone in the family dies, and of course I like get to focus on his death. So I get a day off my work, right? I travel to the place and I get like one-pointed absorption. So I forget the miseries I'm going through, right? So I can feel some like relief or happiness, but it's based on forgetfulness anyway.
Yeah. Oh, like, you know, like I know when I was going to chemo and radiation, I was in hell. I was really in hell. It was hellish. It was completely hellish, physically, mentally, emotionally, on every level. And when I was there, I was thinking, I didn't have any problem, you know, in my life ever. You know, I thought like, oh, where did I find any problem in my life? Because that's real problems. That's really intense, and everything else, I don't understand why I was making myself miserable about it, even like that. And then, you know, I stay high for a little while after suffering went away, and then the frivolous suffering, we have frivolous enjoyment, but we have many frivolous suffering. Then the frivolous suffering came back.
Yes. Yeah.
But when I was in that place, I felt it's impossible for the rest of my life, when that stopped, when that level of suffering stopped, for the rest of my life, I'm going to be in bliss and happy and joyful.
Yes. Yeah. Like you got like a very nice, like, experience full of suffering, and so nice in a way you could see the difference, like when my treatment finishes, because it's such suffering and hell, I will be peaceful because the pain will not be there anymore. And it's like in all our like tryings in this world, like when I get like a big house, then I will be like peaceful, right? Because so many problems will be solved. Or when I get a wife, right? So many problems will be solved. And it does not even need to be like connected with that. Like it's connected with some suffering, either big or small. And then I'm making some plan. And it seems that I'm like always like focused on the suffering that's happening right now. And I cannot like, yeah, like that's like the most important at that point, and the other sufferings are like secondary, but they will come later, and I'm creating more. Hare Krishna. Any other sharings, realizations, questions? Okay, it was nice to spend the time with you. Hare Krishna. Grantara Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Prabhupada ki jai.
Hare Krishna.
Haribol.
Namo Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Taxi, you can put things on the floor because there's too many water all on the table.
Sure.
Unless we can put it on the table. Hare Krishna.